So a very good morning to everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll begin with some meditation just to bring our bodies and minds into the space. And then I'll set a motivation and then we'll get into the talk and see if we have some time for questions and maybe answers at the end. Okay? So you want to sit straight so that your spine is well supported. If you're in a chair, you might want to move forward slightly so you're not completely collapsing into the back of the chair, your spine supporting itself. You can put your right hand over your left with your thumbs touching. That helps the flow of energy in the body. Tuck your chin in very slightly so that your neck and spine are aligned. You can rest your tongue on your upper palate, where you'd put it if you say the word mind. That helps to slow down the flow of saliva, especially if you sit for a long period of time. And if you tend to get drowsy, you can keep your eyes very slightly open to let a bit of light in. But if that's painful or stressful for your eyes, you can keep them closed as well. So let's just take some time to bring our minds into this space and connect our mind with our body. You can just pay attention to how it feels to be in contact with the cushion and the ground. And you can scan your body for any tension and simply release it. And after you've spent a few minutes settling the body, let's now put our attention on our breath. So you can follow the rise and fall of your breath at your belly, or the in and out sensation of air at your nostrils. Just pick either one. And anytime your mind wanders away, you can rejoice that you noticed it and bring your mind back very gently back to the breath. No need to criticize yourself or get into any kind of a story. Just notice your mind wandered. It's perfectly normal. And your job is to bring it back to rest on the breath, firmly and kindly. So we'll do that for some minutes. So an analogy that's often given for the nature of the mind is that it's like a clear blue sky. And all the afflictions that arise in the mind, like ignorance, attachment and anger, jealousy, arrogance, doubt, all those are just like passing clouds. They might obscure the sky, but that's just temporary. These clouds of afflictions are not the nature of the sky. They do not inhere in the mind, and they don't affect the sky or pollute it. And as causes and conditions change, the clouds can pass or dissipate, and the sky remains clear and blue. And so in the same way, when our afflictions come up, they might bring us confusion or narrow our perspective and cause us a lot of mental suffering. But that's always an impermanent state. The nature of our minds remains clear and pure. So knowing that it is possible to remove the afflictions from the mind, because they are not in the nature of the mind, that the Buddha taught countless methods to help us to change the way we see a situation, to shift our perspective, to cultivate a realistic and beneficial point of view, and to know that that's what will help to clear away these temporary clouds and free up the potential of this infinite blue sky mind. And when the mind is freed from afflictions, then there is endless energy to cultivate love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Every good quality you can imagine can be developed to its fullest extent. And in that way, we will be able to be of benefit to every single being that we come into connection with. So try and get a sense of how this is the potential of each and every sentient being's mind. That every single one of us here is capable of this, of completely purifying our minds of the afflictions and cultivating our good qualities to their fullest extent. And so with some confidence in our ability to do this slowly over time, taking one step at a time on a very long path to awakening, let's use our time today to learn a little bit about what the Buddha taught about how to cultivate wisdom. And we do this, again, keeping in our hearts the benefit of all beings in the very long term. So the topic I've been asked to address today is harnessing our inner wisdom. And I thought of this analogy actually because of the talk that I gave yesterday to the Buddhist Fellowship youth. at the end of the talk. The person who asked the question is here. Someone asked, what is a good basis for our self-confidence? Yeah, because if we aren't going to base our confidence on what other people say about us, right? Whether they praise us or they blame us, or some kind of title that we get at school or at work, then how am I supposed to know who I am? Yeah, and how do I know if I'm a good person or not? And often I've heard from different teachers and from the teachings that one of the places we can base our self-confidence is just on the nature of the mind itself, because it's constantly changing, and knowing that the mind doesn't get polluted by the afflictions, but it has the capacity to be freed from them and has this infinite potential to develop good qualities. That the mind, is like the pure sky, right? And it is a valid basis for us cultivating love, compassion, wisdom, joy, equanimity, every good quality we can imagine to its most fully developed aspect. Knowing that our mind has that potential is where we can put our self-confidence. People are looking at me like, what is she talking about? But so that's one idea I'd like to explore today on this topic of harnessing our inner wisdom. As in, what does it really mean to listen to our heart and to look inward and listen to what is this inner wisdom and how does it relate to the wisdom of the Buddha's teachings? So, I think the two topics are connected. Understanding our mind and its potential is part of that process of cultivating wisdom. When I was first thinking about this topic, I was for some reason reminded of an incident that happened with a young person who came to the Abbey. So we have a young adults explore Buddhism program, and it happens every June. And the Abbey opens for all year round, really, in the summer. And for 1 week, there's a dedicated program just for young people aged 18 to 29. All of you in that age range are very welcome to come. No, that's how I see sad people shaking their heads. Well, if you know people in that age range, and Venerable Chodron will dedicate the teachings to the group that comes, really helping them to, with a lot of key life decisions happen at that age, right? And in the West, you'll be surprised, but a lot of people are drawn to Buddhism because they see it as a way to explore different ways of understanding the world and to open the mind. That part's very important to a lot of young people. And sometimes they access that by taking drugs. So hallucinatory drugs, or they smoke marijuana, and it's like, oh, I had this mind-changing experience, and that's what brought me to meditation. And at the monastery, we're always like, okay, that's not what we're doing. No drugs here. Please leave that at the door. We are already hallucinating most of the time. So our job is actually to sober up. So anyway, so there was one of these young people with the very long, young man with very long hair tied up in the top knot like a yogi. That's how he came to Buddhism, doing drugs. And of course, we were working together in the forest, and we try and get everyone outside to be with nature, and that's very healing. And just being back in the earth, So we're like, we're working together, and he starts talking to me about the inner voices that he hears, and how, he just taps into this inner voice, and it's his intuition, and that's what he follows, and that's how he makes decisions. And I found myself so troubled by this. I'm like, oh no, how do I respond? And how do I guide this person? Because that is not always our inner wisdom. Whatever this voice inside is saying, who knows, right? It could be a wandering thought. It could be our afflictive thoughts just telling us some kind of story. So whatever he thought that was, especially because of the way he was leading his life, I thought that is not inner wisdom. It's some kind of voice that was guiding him to take more drugs or to experiment with things to open his mind and not to follow ethical behavior. So when I saw this title, I thought, oh, harnessing your inner wisdom. If we don't properly understand what wisdom is, right, you think it's just, you just sit quietly and whatever arises is okay and it's what to follow. I think that can be very dangerous, yeah, especially now that meditation's becoming very popular, right? And any old who seems to become like you went to take a 2-week meditation class, it's like, okay, now I can be a meditation teacher, right? I record some videos, make some audio recordings, put it on an app, and okay, I'm a meditation teacher. Very, very tricky, yeah? If you are out, if you're new and exploring, definitely take time, to look at what the person is, not just the person's fantastic biography and what they claim to have done, right, but to take time to listen and to check up, right, with what the Buddha actually taught, or, what the purpose of the meditation they're guiding is supposed to lead to, yeah. Making sense? Yeah. So anyhow, I see that a lot in the West. I don't know if that's happening here, yeah, where the whole meditation scene has almost become like a supermarket. There are meditations for giving birth, meditations for, I don't know, yeah, having a rainbow experience, whatever that means. So, when we are meditating in a Buddhist context, and the kind of wisdom we're trying to cultivate is to understand how things exist and to help to free our minds from from mental suffering. And not just that, but to cultivate a very long-term view, yeah, of liberation and awakening that will be of benefit to all beings. Yeah, so that's roughly, what Buddhist meditation is about. But so I thought I'd like to share with you a traditional definition of wisdom that comes from some of the studies we do in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. We study a topic called minds and mental factors, and it's a topic that's sometimes called Buddhist psychology. So the minds that we're talking about here are the primary minds of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, the physical, and the mental consciousnesses, right? So those are our main minds. And the idea here is that every main mind is accompanied by mental factors. Yeah, so there are some that are always present. So, like contact, feeling, yeah, with contact with an object, things like that, yeah, intention, attention. These mental factors are always there to support the main mind in perception. And there are also other mental factors that can color how the main mind is perceiving things. So for example, if there's a mental factor that's an affliction, right, like the eye consciousness arises with attachment involved. Yeah, so you see something very beautiful, right, there's that contact, there's a pleasant feeling, then attachment arises together with the eye consciousness thinking, how, then there's a sense of, wanting to continue to look at the object, right? That can then color the mental consciousness, then the next thought, I would love to keep looking at this, I would like to have it, if I could keep it forever, that would be very nice, right? So that's how the mental factors come into play. One analogy I've heard, it's kind of like lights on a stage, right? You have the main mind is like the main yellow light, and then you can change the color of the light on stage, right? So that's how the mental factor can affect what's happening there. Like you change they call it a gobo on stage, like from the pink to the green, then the whole light is now green, right? So that's how the mental factors are very powerful in affecting our perception. So today we're talking about the mental factor of wisdom. Yeah, it's one of the mental factors as well. And it's classified under the object ascertaining factors. Yeah? They help us to discern different objects and then on that basis decide how to engage with the object. So let me just read you the traditional definition and then we can get into some of its aspects. So what is wisdom? It is a distinct mental factor that has the function of discriminating precisely with analysis the qualities, faults, or characteristics of an object held by mindfulness. Yeah, that's just the first sentence. I think a lot going on already. Yeah. So what does this wisdom do? First of all, it's working hand in hand with mindfulness. Yeah, so I think we got to backtrack after that to talk a bit more about that. Yeah, so it's not wisdom that's just suddenly arising in your distracted mind, yeah? Like this young man, right? It's not something that's coming up while you're taking drugs, okay? Or, you're trying to cut down a tree and it's just some random thought that comes up, yeah? The mind is in a peaceful, stable state. There is some degree of concentration, or what we're calling mindfulness here, that is resting on a particular object. And the mental factor of wisdom is able to analyze that object. It's able to look at how that object exists, what are the qualities of it. Depending on the kind of object that it is, it might be looking at, oh, these are the faults of that object. Or it's looking at, okay, what is the nature of it? Does it have good qualities? Yeah, so the wisdom is doing all that analysis, right, to get working together with mindfulness. And the wonderful thing about our wisdom is that it cuts through indecision and doubt with unilateral certainty. Wow. And it maintains the root of all positive qualities in this and future lives. So I'm not sure if you're all familiar with what's called the 3 higher trainings. Are people familiar with that? Some yes, some no. Yeah. So here we're talking, so the 3 higher trainings is how the Buddha laid out, a kind of a program of practice if we're interested not just in happiness here and now in this life, right, but how to cultivate our mind to its fullest potential, and also to create the causes for happiness in future lifetimes, and then eventually to be liberated from constantly being reborn. Yeah, so he taught what are called the 3 higher trainings, beginning with ethical conduct, and then concentration, right, and part of that concentration is cultivating mindfulness. And then on that basis, we cultivate wisdom. Yeah. So again, I guess this can sound very abstract, but when I first met the Dharma, I found this very inspiring because I was never a person who particularly enjoyed following rules. Do you? No? Okay, you never know, sometimes we have one nun who's like, oh, I'm such a rule follower. I love rules, they make me feel safe. I'm like, that's nice. Okay, yeah. So, I didn't grow up with a organized religion in my life. Yeah, my parents are ethical. They taught us some basics of how to be ethical. But I never had, like these are commandments you must live by or whatever. And in my adolescence, we're all rebellious as teenagers, right? Challenging authority, testing the things people taught us. So I never ever imagined I would ever be interested in religion. But what brought me to Buddhism was an interest in meditation. I was so stressed out at university, and I just met the Buddhist meditation group on campus, and they would sit. They would chant the Heart Sutra. I'm like, what is that? No idea. And then they would sit for a while and just watch the breath. And so I was very stressed out, trying all kinds of different things to deal with the stress. So I met with this group, and I found it helped. Just sitting together with this group, calming the mind. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's actually having an impact in the rest of my life and my relationships. And so as I learned about meditation, I was so fascinated when I heard that ethical conduct is the foundation for a good meditation practice. Not really, why is that? Yeah. And so that's something to really think about, right? Because you think, oh, how to have a good meditation practice? Okay, you just show up, push yourself. Yeah. I know that was how I was in my lay life. Maybe I'm still like that, right? How to be good at something? Read a book about it, make notes. Yeah, develop a strategy and an action plan. Okay, show up and practice like you're going to the gym 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Do exercises, push. Does that help when you meditate? Have other people tried this kind of method? Looks like some maybe, yeah. I must sit straight. Right, it just makes you more tired and miserable. No, you're just adding stress when you meditate. Yeah, the whole purpose of meditation is to, for a start, relax the mind. Relaxing the mind from the afflictions that make it tight, right? Not relax as in sleep and be dormant, but relaxing from the afflictions. So actually this kind of method of let's push my way to awakening or even push my way to a good meditation is totally counterproductive. So to my great surprise, what I was hearing in these teachings was, if you're an ethical person, if you keep the 5 precepts, that's what will improve your meditation. I thought, really? Okay, so I thought, let's give it a try. Yeah. So I just, learned about the 5 precepts and thought about how they might help in my life and how they might actually improve my meditation. And over time, I think it's quite logical, right? Because so for example, if you don't kill any being, if you don't harm beings, then when you sit and meditate, no feelings of remorse or regret or guilt arise, right? You don't regret having harmed others. Yeah. When you look at what actually comes up to distract your mind in meditation, very often it's related to non-virtue, right? Or habitual thoughts and patterns that our mind just feels uncomfortable about. Right? So think about it. What's the relationship between that and keeping good ethical conduct? Yeah. So that's what keeping precepts started to help me think about. Right? If I don't steal things, same thing. I'm not sitting there worried that I have to hide something from others, or I've taken something without permission. Instead, my mind doesn't have to worry about people stealing from me, or people finding out about things that I don't want them to find out about. Right? Same, avoiding unwise and unkind sexual behavior. Right? That, I think, is a major distraction in meditation, no? Right? Or in your life, really. Yeah, people who start, if you are in a relationship and then you decide to start another relationship, or if you are dating someone who is in a relationship and so you have to keep your relationship secret, please think about all the mental and emotional energy that takes. Yeah, we can just imagine. There's that, right? For some reason, people think this is very thrilling. It's very mysterious to me. I mean, most often, I think people do this because their mind is unhappy, right? And you think, okay, if I go and start an affair, somehow this is going to be exciting and bring happiness into my life. I mean, just the level of mental stress, right? Of having to keep up this whole, first you have started this thing, then you have to pretend as if nothing is happening. You're constantly lying to the people around you, whether it's your spouse or your children or whoever you're dating. You have created this whole secret double life. Yeah, you have to maybe have a separate phone account and make sure you don't mix up the messages or whatever it is people do. Suddenly, all your energy is going into this. Right? We've heard people buy an apartment for their mistress or whatever overseas, right? And they have this whole secret life and a secret family. Not only does it bring you stress, think of all the people it negatively affects, right? Especially when it comes out. It will come out. There's no way to hide this, yeah? People who find out that, their parent has had a whole second family and so on. I think we've all heard these stories and how painful it is. I cannot imagine you would be able to meditate or concentrate if that's what's going on, right? Even day to day, you would be worrying and, either your mind's getting overexcited and agitated about this whole situation or you would be worrying, So spare yourself the trouble and just, keep good ethical conduct. So letting go of that kind of unkind and unwise behavior, especially in terms of romantic relationships. And then, of course, we have avoiding lying. And usually lying comes hand in hand with whatever it is we want to hide is also something non-virtuous that we don't feel good about, right? And instead of having the courage to own it ourselves or even to tell the other person kindly what we actually think, right? That would solve a lot of problems or save us a lot of time. Instead, we tell lies and then, one lie leads to another and it becomes this huge thing. Last year, we had a discussion group about lying. At the Abbey, we often run retreats. And this was a really interesting topic. You get to meet strangers in discussion groups and discuss these topics. And I was amazed at how this topic of what are some of the biggest lies you've told? Wow, really opened up so much. I think most people in the group were crying at the end of it. No, just to touch base with that. I'm not going to do that now to you, don't worry. But, that's an idea, for future discussion groups. Just to think about that. What are some of the biggest lies you've told and why? And for people to share that, people were really, and they shared really from the heart with each other. About starting affairs and not telling their spouse about it. Or even simple things like they wanted to, I think, little secrets you keep from your spouse that where the spouse finds out and is so hurt, And you have to ask yourself, why? Why is it so hard for me to tell the truth to someone I love? right? What am I so afraid of? Yeah. Whether it's vulnerability, or the simple example Venerable Chodron often gives is, someone who loves you very much likes to cook for you, but you can't stand their cooking. So what do? Yeah. Yeah. Do you tell them the truth? As in, yeah, Grandma, stop cooking. I can't stand it. I can't stand the taste of this. No, yeah. So she says, you can have creative solutions when they cook for you. Yeah, of course, eat a little bit, and then focus on what it is that they're wanting to give you, right? So of course, this person is trying to express their love when they cook. So even if the food doesn't taste good, you can say, wow, I really appreciate that you took the time to do this, right? The truth, yeah? And maybe, I'm actually very full, you don't have to cook so much next time, right? But at least you have appreciated the kind gift, right? And you haven't had to lie and be like, oh yeah, I love it when you cook for me. And then next time they're gonna do it again, and then you feel bad, and so on. All right, so yeah, there are always creative solutions that do not involve fabricating lies, and yeah, well, you're still able to appreciate others, or at the worst, change the topic, right? The classic, your friend asks you, how do I look in this outfit? It's time to go. Yeah, you might consider another color, all right? Yeah, so okay, so that gets us looking at, all right, why do we lie, and how can we come back to telling the truth? And how much more peaceful our lives and our minds are when we are able to just be honest with ourselves and others. Yeah. But I would say probably at that time, the most impactful of the 5 precepts was definitely giving up intoxicants. Yeah. So again, as I told you, I did not grow up Buddhist, and I went to college in the US. So most of the time when people are stressed out, what do? Drink. Yeah, huge drinking culture. Yeah, for young people, that is, I don't know what is that doing to your mind. It's not at all helpful. And I was so amazed that the moment I gave up drinking or taking any kind of intoxicants, my mind was peaceful. It's like, oh, I can focus now. Duh! When you're drunk, right, your mind's not clear, you can't think well. And of course, on the basis of that lack of clarity, then you commit all the other non-virtues as well. Yeah, so that's actually one of the most important ones. Maybe that's not such a big problem here, but often again in the West, when people request to take precepts, they will skip this one. Yeah, it's like, I can do all the rest, but I just want to have a glass of wine with my family. Yeah. Oh, I have to meet my friends at the bar to share the Dharma with them. It's like, I'm sure that's what you're doing. Yeah. So, okay, find your way, take your time, right? The wonderful thing about these precepts is that we choose to take them. Yeah, it's something that we do after logically thinking about it, analyzing its impact in our life, and then we voluntarily take and keep them. Right? So the attitude is so different from, some authority said you must do this, it's good or bad. Yeah. And the same with monastic precepts. You have hundreds of precepts, but it's because you've thought about it and that's what you want to do with your life. Yeah. And again, these are training rules, right? We take them because we're not perfect. Yeah, and then when we break them, we confess, we repent, right? You can retake your lay precepts if needed. And of course, don't make a habit of it, right? Like, oh yeah, I have already. Okay, go and drink wine. Then, okay, just come back, talk to the Bante. Hey, Bante, sorry lah, give me precepts again. Like, no, yeah, no. I actually had quite a wonderful teacher at the start of my practice who said, if you break a precept, you need to come and talk to me about it. And he would admonish us. Then he would tell us where we could go and request them again. So that made me very careful. Yeah, it's like, whoa, if I break a precept, I have to call the preceptor and tell them. Yeah. So that helps. Yeah. And at the Abbey too, we have a ceremony for lay people to renew their precepts themselves every 2 weeks. Yeah. So every 2 weeks, as you know, the monastics, we confess and repent and purify our precepts. So we have a ceremony for lay people to just reflect, what's the meaning of my refuge and precepts and how am I doing? A very beautiful part of the ceremony is to imagine if the whole world took precepts. Yeah. So just imagine, if the whole world actually did not engage in killing, even for one day. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, all the wars would just stop for one day. Even one day, the kind of impact that would have. There would be nothing to report in the news, I think, right? No stealing, even for one day. Yeah, suddenly, okay, it'll be good news only. Yeah? Yeah. No sexual misconduct for one day. What in the world would the news write about? Yeah. or people only told the truth. So if we think about it that way, the incredible impact if many people engage in virtue and the impact it has on the world, then we can logically see when we alone, as one person, do this and we keep precepts, the effect that has on others and our own life. Yeah. But anyway, I'm talking about the precepts because that is the basis of us having a stable meditation practice, right? It's not like your meditation is totally separate from your life, right? Like, okay, it's this thing you do just for 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, you watch your breath, and then you go out and then you go and harm people. Yeah, or you go out and then you just engage and distract yourself. Yeah, it goes hand in hand. So whatever we're doing in the times that we're not on the cushion has a profound impact on our practice, and vice versa, right? Whatever we're doing on the cushion can have a profound impact on our life if we're able to use that time well. Yeah. So yes, I will say very self-centeredly, at first I thought, oh, I'm going to try and keep these precepts because I want a better meditation practice. I just want to have a more peaceful mind. And it worked. Yeah. So I thought, oh, very interesting. Yeah. But after a while you realize, so that's the basis of ethical conduct, right? And it helps us to cultivate concentration. But after a while I was like, okay, is that the whole purpose of meditation? You just sit and breathe. I was doing a lot of breath meditation, and I was also doing a lot of metta meditation, and it feels very good, right? Like, I'm sending loving kindness. Then I get up and I go to work and I hate my colleague. Right? Okay, where's this loving kindness? It feels so good. Why can't I just meditate all day? That's it, I'm going to quit and just go on retreat. Why can't I just sit on retreat for months and months and feel good, alone, about myself? None of you are going to bother me. There's not going to be the sound of birds chirping at all times when I'm trying to meditate. I'm going to be so peaceful. Right, so I got into that as well. I think that there's people are laughing because maybe some of you have had the same thing come up, right? Meditation so peaceful, retreat so wonderful, the rest of my life sucks. Right, forget it. Yeah, let's quit now and go off to the hills. You're wondering, oh, maybe that's why she became a nun, right? No, I think I've shared this with this group before, maybe, right? A lot of people think that if you become a monastic, that's what is going to happen. You're like going to be floating on a cloud all day, right? You just get to meditate all day. And I will say the first time that I actually went to Sravasti Abbey for a long period, I was completely shocked, because it was the total opposite. Okay, there's meditation times, and then there's a lot of service. But most of all, once you're in a retreat setting, if anyone here has gone on long retreat, you really get to see what's in your mind. When it's really quiet, right? You're not distracted by your phone or your tablet or whatever it is. You sit, and all this stuff just comes up. Things you feel poorly about from when you were little, songs from TV that just won't stop playing, and then you can't stand the person sitting next to you, and then the birds are chirping, like you say, why are these birds so noisy? We're in a retreat place. At the Abbey, you can hear the cow mooing down the road. It's like, huh? Right, what is going on? I thought I was here to get focused, and my mind is just going crazy. I think that's a very common retreat experience, right? And we have all our expectations of what we think it's about. And of course, then there's the reality that your mind is untamed. And we're coming into contact with, we're seeing that for the first time. Sometimes people think they're going crazy or whatever. That's not at all the case. It's just that your mind has gotten quiet enough that you can actually see all the mental chatter that's running at a more subtle level. Right? There's nothing abnormal happening, okay? And instead, it's like saying, oh, if you've actually lived in a very dirty room for a long time, but when you're very busy and you have no time to clean your room, then you think that's normal, right? Or you come, you sleep in it, you just go. But when you actually have some time and space and you start to look under the bed, you realize, wow, there's a huge mess that needs to be cleaned up, And that's what's happening. I think when the mind, you've kept some precepts, right? Your life, your body and speech are fairly regulated. You can develop some mental concentration. Your mind starts to calm down. Then you can start to see, what are some of my emotional habit patterns? What are some of the afflictions that are running constantly in my mind? And then that gives us access to wisdom, right? That's when we start to analyze, okay, what are some of these thought patterns that are coming up again and again? Are they useful? Are they beneficial? how do I relate what I've heard in the teachings to what is going on in my meditation practice? Right? And that's, I think, how it links to, yes, this very technical definition I read you, right? When your mind is calm enough, it has some mindfulness, it's able to start to look at different objects for some period of time. What is that object? It might be, like metta, you're trying to cultivate loving kindness, that's your object. Then 1,000,001 things take you away, right? But you have enough wisdom to check up, what's taking me away? Oh, that's anger. Is anger beneficial? No. Okay, I want to come back to my object. Right? So you start to develop this like a mental skill, to identify different aspects of what's coming up in your mind. That's really what we mean when we say becoming our own best friend, I think, in our meditation. We're actually getting to know what's going on in our mind and what our habits are and how to work with them. Yes, now we have a little bit of wisdom on that basis, right, to start to analyze what's coming up. And then on that basis, we'll be able to make helpful decisions that are wise and beneficial. So here I want to talk a little bit about the types of wisdom that we have, okay? So all of us actually have some inborn intelligence, right? No? Yeah, please feel relieved. Yeah, you do have some inborn intelligence, right? And this comes from past causes and conditions we have created. Yeah, this is the karma that we created in past lives. That's the Buddhist worldview, yeah. But, so it doesn't like arise from nowhere. It's not given to us from God, right? The idea is that, okay, the mind in the past has familiarized itself with certain ways of thinking that are beneficial and realistic. And that's coming into this life with us. And you know what? The fact that you're sitting here at all, or that you come to a place like Buddhist fellowship, indicates you have created those causes in the past. Within the Buddhist teachings, we call this having a precious human life. Yeah. To have a human life, to have human intelligence, again, doesn't come from nowhere. What is taught is that it comes from us having created virtuous causes in the past. All of us have avoided non-virtuous actions, and we have practiced virtuous actions. We have engaged in generosity, ethical conduct, right? Fortitude, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom, what are called the 6 perfections. And we've made aspirations, oh, may I be a human being again. May I be able to have a life that has intelligence and be able to benefit others. So on that basis, that's what has created the causes for us to have a human life that we're now able to use to meditate and to take interest in any spiritual things and to develop. So you can see not every human on this planet has a precious human life, right? There are a lot of humans, rich or poor. In terms of poor, then they might be spending all their time trying to just get the requisites for living. There's no time to even explore, does life have a deeper meaning, right? You're just focused on survival. We can see with the very, very rich too. They may not have any interest in spiritual things, right? Their whole life is, oh, let's buy a new boat, let's buy a new house, who can I invite to the party, right? Zero interest in anything that has deeper meaning beyond material things. Yeah. So this is a very unique group of people, that you thought on a Sunday, instead of going to the golf course or going to eat breakfast at wherever whatever market that you like to eat breakfast at, you're here. Yeah, or maybe you already ate that breakfast. Yeah, you already had your favorite whatever at whatever place. Yeah, life in Singapore on a Sunday. Yeah, but you're here, right? And you're curious, like, oh, yeah, how do I learn something about how to become a better person? Very few people on this planet are interested in this. So that's something to really, really appreciate about yourself, and that you're putting in this kind of time. And that is a kind of wisdom. Instead of turning to some external source for your happiness and validation, you are wondering, oh, could that possibly be coming from my mind or something inside, right? Is that something I can cultivate myself? Yeah. So that's inborn wisdom, right, that we come into this life with from previous lives. But that's not enough, right? So that's why we have to keep cultivating our wisdom, and we talk about how there's wisdom that arises from hearing. Right, so from coming to listen to talks, from reading suttas, I think many people here study suttas or the Buddha's teachings, you read Buddhist books. All these are forms of hearing, right? And so that is the first part of the process. Right? We read books and listen to talks by people who practice ethical conduct and who are putting forward ideas that can help us. Then wisdom arising from contemplation. Yeah, that's not just enough to read or listen. Yeah, you have to go back and reflect on what you've heard. Yeah, it's not like, oh, you hear it once and okay, it's gonna go in, right? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, these are things we hear again and again and again. But even if you take notes, it's not enough to just leave them in your phone or put them in a book. You've got to think about it. And that's where a lot of the Dharma discussions come in. I think it's wonderful. I see at Buddhist Fellowship lots of interactive workshops. There are so many creative ways people are employing to discuss the Dharma. Yeah, so instead of spending time gossiping or talking, about sports, talk to your Dharma friends, right, about what you've heard, or how is it that you're applying these teachings in your daily life? Yeah, so that's why we have those discussion groups at the Abbey, like I told you about. Yeah, where it's through the discussion, through talking about how it relates to our personal experience, that the Dharma comes alive for us. Yeah, so any teaching that you hear, whether this one today or others on every Sunday service, take time to reflect on it in terms of your personal experience. And you can do that by talking to the people who come with you, or you do it in meditative practice. Yeah, so the practice that we do at the Abbey, there's one aspect that is just concentration meditation, right? Like I led, right? You focus on one object to calm the mind. And then we do a lot of what is called analytic meditation. So you take points that you've heard from teachings or read in books, and you make notes. And you contemplate that when you're meditating. You think, okay, Venerable Damcho, talk today about the threefold, ethics, concentration, and wisdom. Does that apply to my life? Can I think of examples where keeping ethics was helpful? And then you sit and you think about that with that kind of meditative focus. Yeah, you get what I mean? Right? Yeah, you reflect for yourself. Okay, I keep these precepts. Have they actually helped? And you make examples for yourself from your own experience or from looking at the people around you. Yeah. And then you can make examples too. Oh, I went on retreat. This came up in retreat. Okay, was that a helpful experience or not? Yeah, and that's then how we really start to deepen our, what we're calling here, inner wisdom. Yeah, we're building on the foundation that's come from previous lives, right? And then we're also hearing teachings. Not only that, we think about them, but most importantly, we meditate on them and really think about how it relates to your personal experience. Yeah. Otherwise, then the Dharma will always remain some abstract, faraway thing, right? It's a list. Oh, what are the 4 truths? All of you can repeat back to me. What is the Eightfold Path? Then, when problems come up in your daily life, Venerable, what do I do? Yeah. Oh, I'm sick. What should I think? It's like, wait a second. Wasn't that talk already given ages ago, right? How come we're not familiar with it? Yeah. Because we're not thinking about it regularly or making it a part of our lives. Yeah. So this is so, so, so important, especially as you come for talks or go for more and more classes. Never leave the Dharma as if it's like some book on a shelf. Yeah. Always think about how does it relate to my personal experience. And sometimes that can be quite scary. It can really get you to challenge the things that you do and to rethink how you want to live your life. Yeah. I'll give you a simple example where we had a friend. He was taking our Sravasti Abbey Friends Education program. So it's a distance learning program, and it is, many modules step by step. And this friend, after taking the module on karma, one day he came up to the Abbey and he said, oh, is it true that if you kill beings, that will cause your life to become shorter or you might receive physical harm? Yeah, that's what the teachings say. And so we discussed that for a bit. He said, yeah, I'm really starting to see that. And he said, my livelihood is as a pest exterminator. And he said, I guess I have to give it up, yeah? And I said, well, what do you think? Yeah, he said, yeah, I realized that. And he did. He closed down his pest extermination business. It was earning him a lot of money at the time. But from learning the Dharma and reflecting on his life, he thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm killing a lot of beings. Okay, people need this service, but I don't want to be the one to do this, and there must be other ways to take care of, the buildings. So he gave up his business, and then he went back to school, and he retrained himself as a drug rehabilitation counselor. Yeah. Yeah. So that, I think, is an incredible example of how the Dharma changes our minds completely and our lives. Yeah. So I'm sure you're nodding because you have found that to be the case in your own life, yeah, in many different ways. Yeah, so that is actually just wisdom on the conventional level, right? When we actually start to see, oh, our actions have effects, you know, because there are two kinds of ignorance. Now, one is just the basic ignorance of how things function in the world. Ignorance that doesn't see that, yeah, there's cause and effect. There's a relationship between our actions and their results. You can see so many people acting on that basis, no? Maybe you did too, yeah, in secondary school. Yeah, if we don't study, it's okay one lah. Okay, sure. Or whatever, we'll just skip this class, forget it. Yeah, it's not going to be important. Yeah, whatever, I'm just going to talk back to my teachers and my parents. No effect, doesn't matter. Right? I'll do whatever I want when I want to. Right? That kind of mind, right? It's like, no, wait, there are results. Yeah, and we've all experienced them. So on that very simple, basic level, you know, someone realizing, oh, by killing a lot of beings, I'm harming them, there are results. Like, so many beings get harmed by my livelihood, and I'm making money from that. I have to stop. And instead, I want to help people with my livelihood. Yeah. So just that alone, that kind of wisdom is so powerful already, recognizing actions have results. Yeah. And what kinds, on that basis of that wisdom, what kinds of results do I want to create? Yeah. So other kinds of wisdom we talk about are also then wisdom that starts to recognize how things exist. Yeah. So very often, I don't know if you've heard this teaching, right? Our minds are clouded by the 4 obscurations or misconceptions, right? Where we think that foul things are beautiful, yeah, where we think that impermanent things are permanent, right? We think that things that are empty or selfless have a self, yeah? And we think that things that are painful are pleasurable. Sorry, I'm not going through them in the regular order, right? So here's where then the Buddha really starts to challenge how we perceive things, right? We often think that this body is beautiful and wonderful, but you know, if you blow your nose, what comes out? Yeah, you had breakfast this morning, you go to the toilet, what comes out? Yeah, that person you really want to kiss, if I spat into a cup and ask you to drink it, will you drink it? Then why do you want to kiss someone? Is it not the same? Right? I've heard that a monastic actually did that. I'm not going to spit into a cup for you. Right? But so just think about it, you know? So this is, yeah, we have this kind of ignorance that things that are actually not clean are clean and beautiful. Yeah? And all of us get stuck on this one. Things that are impermanent, we think are permanent. People get sick, they pass away, and we're shocked. Right? It's like, here we know it, right? Oh, of course, this person is old and they're going to die. And then they die, and it's like, huh? How is that possible? Like, right? Yeah, so again, that huge gap, right? So that is a good example of ignorance. And that's why we have to keep familiarizing ourselves with the notion that, yeah, we are impermanent, the people around us are impermanent, or yeah, our job is impermanent, things change. I will say, like yesterday I was telling the group, I had a good test, yeah? The Abbey is permanent. You know, I have my flight scheduled in a few days. I'm going to fly back. There's an Abbey there, I'm going to go back to it. Yesterday morning I found out the whole Abbey has been evacuated because of fire danger. You know, for the first time in 20 years, you know, usually we have to pack our bags and get ready to go. That's been as severe as it's been. Yesterday I arrived in Singapore in the morning. I went to the bank to deal with some issues. And I got these emails from the Abbey saying, oh, it's level 3, we are all evacuating now. I'm like, huh? What? I'm supposed to go, what? Ah! Calm down, what can you do? Yeah, everyone is safe, don't worry, including the cats, they're all safe. We have a whole fire evacuation plan, so everyone is in different lay people's homes. Thanks to a lot of prayers from people all over the world. I'm sure some of you have made those prayers for us too. The evacuation level has gone down. So today, 2 nuns drove back to the Abbey to just check that everything is safe before telling everyone, okay, you can come back. Yeah. But still, there are huge fires going on. So later at the end of this session, we'll do some recitations that Venerable Chodron, my teacher, recommended, just to, you know, dedicate for the well-being of all the beings in that area. But yeah, so I see, wow, okay, I had plans. Every time we have plans, we think they're going to happen, right? Yeah.
I think the best piece of advice Venerable Chodron has given us is, if you have a plan, you know what is not going to happen. I mean, just to hold it lightly, Okay, I have one set of plans, but so many causes and conditions come up. Yeah? Nobody who dies today planned to die today, right? You wake up in the morning, you're very much planning to get to the end of the day, but you don't know. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean we don't make plans at all. Yeah. But living with this kind of understanding, okay, what's realistic today, what's not, yeah? And based on whatever situation I'm in. I think that's one of the great struggles of being sick or as we age, yeah? The capacity we thought we had, that we thought was permanent and unchanging, changes. Oh, today I cannot walk as far as I thought I could because I'm older. All right, I have to learn to accept that. That's shifting and changing. Yeah, I spent some time with one of my aunts yesterday who's quite elderly. So just watching that, day to day, you're just checking how far can I walk? How much can I stand? How much can I sit? And adjusting to that. And learning to accept that and be happy about it. And so that's where our practice can help us. If we've already thought about this ahead of time, yeah, in our meditation, there are lots of meditations we learn about, the death meditations, right? Rehearsing what it might be like as we approach death, how to think. Yeah, so take time to do them. Now, don't wait till you're sick, then be like, oh no, what should I think, right? Oh no, what should I think about? I'm not feeling well. When your mind is already in a lot of distress, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to turn to something to calm it down. Yeah. But if you're habituated to that, then it will come up very naturally. And that's why it's helpful to practice daily, to have a daily meditation practice. Okay. So yes, those misconceptions, overcoming that is a form of wisdom. But really the wisdom we're trying to get at is the wisdom realizing how things truly exist. Yeah. So recognizing that on the basis of understanding that things are impermanent, depending on causes and conditions, then they do not have some kind of fixed inherent essence that's unchanging. Yeah. And so the idea is that as we cultivate that kind of wisdom, right, when we understand that that's the nature of how we exist and how others and phenomena around us exist, that can help to free the mind from becoming attached and becoming angry, and instead stay, calm and focused on virtuous states. Yeah. So that part is a huge other teaching that, we don't have much time to get into today, but I just like to seed that idea, okay, that there are many levels of wisdom that we're working on. So you can see where you are in your day-to-day life, as you practice ethical conduct or calm your mind and start to get to know it, then it becomes very clear what you need to work on. Yeah, people always ask, oh, there's so many teachings, what do I focus on? Well, look at your own mind. What do you need to work on first? What is the affliction that's giving you the most trouble? Attachment? How many people? Only 2. Oh, okay, good. All right. Yeah, good. Yeah, so you notice, all right, that's the one that's pulling me along by the nose everywhere, every day in my life. Yeah, for me, I would say attachment for sure. I get tricked by it all the time. Yeah, so okay, that's your focus. Yeah, you're trying to watch in your daily life. Okay, when does it come up? What are the objects that trigger it? Yeah, how do I behave? Oh, out of attachment, then I throw all my values out the window, right? Yeah, forget the precepts. Let's go party. Yeah, whatever it is. So you observe from your own experience, and then you apply the teachings in relation to that. Right, then what about the people who get angry? Yeah, anger? Okay, yeah, so same thing, yeah? Looking at what are the triggers, how to work with that, the antidotes to apply. Arrogance? No, this is a room of very humble people. Okay, there are 5 of us that have arrogance, okay? Yeah, so jealousy, right? Okay, I know we all have them, yeah, but it's just to see, okay, what do I need to work on the most urgently? Yeah, whenever I go on retreat, that's how I feel these days, Like at the Abbey, we sit a 3-month silent retreat every year. Yeah, so my to-do list, I mean, for sure there's a practice we do, but for myself, it's always what affliction do I need to work on this time? Yeah, okay, a lot of jealousy has been coming up. All right, we're going to come at this one. Yeah, read about how to deal with the antidotes, really get familiar with the enemy. Yeah, the enemy is not some outside person, but the enemy is the affliction, right? And really get familiar with how does it manifest and what stories does it spin, what are the triggers for it? And then I can apply the antidotes and it doesn't run my life in the same way. Yeah. then there's a lot more space to think about virtuous things, right? How do I have a loving, compassionate, beneficial attitude towards others? Yeah. Okay, wow, so I think that's just the first part that I wanted to cover about different kinds of wisdom, and we're almost out of time. Just very, very briefly before we turn to questions, yeah, I wanted to say a little bit about this topic of inner wisdom. Yeah, I think one of the aspects that distracts us is, you know, it made me think, is there such a thing as outer wisdom, if there's inner wisdom? And then maybe I was thinking about outer wisdom in terms of what is promoted socially or in our families sometimes that's actually not wisdom. Yeah, maybe it's more like family and social conditioning, right? It's masquerading as wisdom. It's pretending to tell us how to live our lives and what will be beneficial, but if you really think about it, it doesn't, you know. And that's why I think they say the Buddhist practice is a lot like going upstream. Yeah, because there's all this conventional worldly wisdom telling you how to live your life and what it means to be human and, you know, what goodness really is. But if you really check up and look at it, it may not be the case. Yeah, and it's having to check up, right? And then as we develop the Buddhist worldview, we see we're actually going against the grain. Yeah. So simple examples, you know, like someone told me how they were raised to just pray to the Buddha like an external being, like, Buddha, I need to pass my test. Please help. Yeah. Or, oh, if you point at the moon, your finger will get cut off. I don't know. Other people have been raised with that. I don't know. So this kind of thing that you're told, right? If you accept it without thinking, yeah, that's not wisdom, right? You have to logically think about it. Or can the Buddha really help you pass your exam? No, you have to go and please create the causes, right? Yeah, maybe praying to the Buddha calms your mind temporarily, but no matter what, you have to show up in class and listen and study, right? Things like that. Okay, yeah, and then of course, here there's tremendous social pressure to earn money or to achieve certain things, or there's a whole definition of success, and we really have to question that. You know, is that necessarily going to bring happiness, or is it in line with my personal values? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's very much what can get in the way of us listening to the inner wisdom that we came into our lives with from previous lives, or that we're hearing from the Buddha Dharma or other wise beings in our life, you know, and checking up, yeah. Is this way of thinking beneficial or not beneficial? Okay, so I think that's as much as I'd like to say on this topic for now. I'd like to make sure there's a bit of time for questions, and maybe I'll try and give answers. Please feel free to share anything that's on your mind.
All right. Thank you, Venerable. I see the first hand raised. Let me just go over.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable, for the inspiring talk. Okay, my question relates to the ethical conduct and the example you gave about this sexual misconduct. So you're talking about not going into it, and therefore you will not affect the meditation. Now, suppose I'm in it. Suppose I'm in it, and I have to unravel it. So that will also give a lot of problems in my meditation. So how should it be done in that case? That means unraveling the misconduct you have gone into, so that you will continue to have a good meditation in the process of unraveling.
Thank you. That's a really good question. Yeah, okay, so we have engaged in past non-virtues, yeah? And now you're meditating and they're coming up. And instead of letting it take over your whole session, what can you do? So from a Buddhist perspective, the whole topic here is about purification practices. Yeah, there's so many things we can do to purify our past negativities, but I just want to talk about what are called the 4 opponent powers, because all purification practices we do will follow this structure, right? So first, there's generating regret. Yeah, that's the first step. First of all, it's recognizing, oh, I did something that is not beneficial or harmful, and I don't feel good about it. It's not the same as guilt, where you shame yourself or you beat yourself up, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so bad. Please do not spend your time in meditation thinking that, okay? Like, oh, I'm such a bad person. Then you just come out feeling bad, right? Regret is more like,
okay, you picked up a very hot pot and it burns your hand, immediately you put the pot down, right? You're not going to stand there and like, I'm so stupid, why did I pick up this pot? You just put it down. Okay, so that's the idea here. Oh, wow, I was confused. I thought I would be happy if I started an affair. You know what? This is a mess. It has to stop now. And I do not want to harm any of the people around me anymore. Right? It's very clear. Yeah? Regret is that kind of mind. Okay? You're very clear, this is harmful. I see the harm I've caused. I own it. Stop. Right? So you have this mind of regret. Okay? Then next, then you want to generate a sense of refuge, or in sometimes we call it repairing the relationship. Yeah, so here, if you have harmed other beings, then you repair the relationship by generating a beneficial attitude towards them. Yeah, so you might be meditating on love and compassion for that being. You know, you, in your metta meditation, bring up the person that you have harmed through your misconduct. Right, and just send loving kindness to that person, sending them well wishes. Of course, sending it to yourself too, because you have harmed yourself through the negative action. Yeah, and in some cases, you might be bowing to Buddhas as a way to remind yourself of the values you want to recommit to. Yeah, so just this deep wish, oh, I want to repair my relationship. I want to deepen my refuge again. Yeah, I want to turn away. I want to mentally turn away from those attitudes that caused the harm in the first place. Yeah. So it's a very much a mental process. Yeah. And I'm emphasizing that because sometimes the external thing, you know, becomes the focus. You get what I mean? Like, oh, you need to purify your mind, so go and bow. And you're like, how is bowing going to help? Right? It doesn't help if you don't generate these mental attitudes. Yeah. So first there's the regret, right? Oh, I want to generate a beneficial attitude. I want to repair my relationship. And then how do we repair it? We take actual remedial action. So that can take a different form for many people. You know, if you don't believe in the Buddha Dharma, you don't have a religious practice, you can do charity work, right? Okay, I've killed a lot of beings in the past. Yeah, like you decide, okay, maybe I want to purify fishing, right? I don't want to kill animals anymore. I go and volunteer at an animal shelter. Yeah, do something direct that's the total opposite of what you did. Okay, I've engaged in sexual misconduct. Why don't I go volunteer with women who are domestic abuse survivors? You know, let me go and help the people who have suffered in this way. Yeah, something active like that, or even just donating to a charity that supports people that. And so you're moving your body and speech in a whole different direction as well. Yeah, so and that's why bowing can be very powerful, right? Instead of being arrogant or thinking you're always right and following those thoughts, you're like, okay, you know what? I bow down to love and compassion and wisdom, and I want to move in that direction. Yeah. So for some people, it's saying mantra that can help. For some people, it's meditating on a certain topic, right? So okay, to overcome those thoughts of attachment, I want to spend time meditating on impermanence. So whatever it is for you, you make that decision. This is the remedial action I will do, and I commit to it. Yeah. And then the fourth step is making a strong resolve not to repeat this action again. And here we make the resolve for a realistic period of time. Okay, it's not like, okay, I'm never going to gossip ever again. Good luck. Yeah, right? It's like, okay, you know what? I have this habit of gossiping, or I love talking for hours about sports. All right, it's not helpful. Let me try to stop for one day. Okay, just one day. Or I'm going to try and stop for half a day. Whatever you feel is realistic. And again, it's to pay attention, what's the impact on your life, right? Oh wow, today I did not say anything bad about my boss. Amazing. Pat yourself on the back. Did it help? You know, did you actually talk to your colleagues about something else that was fun and interesting instead of sitting there for the whole lunch period complaining? Right? It's like, oh, you know what? We actually talked about something else because I made this commitment not to complain. Yeah, so noticing that, and then you give yourself a pat on the back, right? So you continue. Yeah, so those are 4 aspects of any purification practice that you do, and that will also help. Then the next time you meditate, okay, you know what? I've purified it. Let it go. Don't need to hang on to it anymore. If you keep beating yourself up about some mistake you made, I mean, it benefits no one, yeah? So just look back. I was confused. I did those things. I have changed my attitude. I've made a remedial action. Done. Okay, I'm sorry for that, what happened in the past. Now I can move on in a whole different direction. Yeah. So give that a try. Anything else?
Venerable. Any more questions?
Bhante, just like you said about meditation on impermanence, right? Do you mean that you quiet down your mind and reflect on impermanence, or to see for impermanence? Can you clarify? What do you mean by meditating on impermanence?
Wow, there's so many methods of meditating on impermanence. I don't have that resource on me now, but on the grossest level, the ones that we do in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition are just meditating on the fact of death itself, right? So there are 9 points to contemplate, right? To think, okay, death is certain. Then you make clear examples. Has anybody not died in this world? You know, people die at all ages. Yeah? Causes of death are numerous, right? So it's that kind of reflection. It's more like a reflection on that process, yeah? Or that time of death is uncertain. So that's one set of meditations we do. Sometimes we've also done meditations on looking at impermanence in everyday experience, reflecting on the 4 seasons, saying, okay, things are constantly changing around me. And why we call that a meditation is because you're actually focusing your mind on a realistic and virtuous object. You're putting your attention there. Right? Instead of, oh, these beautiful autumn trees that are orange in color, and I wish the autumn would never change, right? You're instead thinking, okay, it's autumn. Everything green's turning brown. Wow, and the leaves are all going to fall, and it's going to be winter very soon. And guess what? The nature of my body is the same. You know, it's going to change like a leaf, and it will pass away. Yeah. So that's how you can reflect on impermanence. So in the things that you see around you, Singapore here, the building is here one day, it's gone tomorrow. I don't know. I'm still constantly surprised by that. It's like, the road changed so much. It's like, yeah, why? Why am I surprised? Yeah. That's perfect in Singapore, I think. Nothing is stable. Yeah. This road changed to that next week. I don't know. They reclaim more land, suddenly got a new place. Okay. Then use that to see. But it's not just, I see that as some external thing, right? It's always relating it back. I am of the same nature. My friends and my family are of the same nature. This house I'm so attached to it's already torn down by the government already, even though I'm living in it now, right? And then that helps us to have a more realistic perspective. Yeah. One of the nuns at the Abbey does that I find very powerful is when we're in meditation retreat, a lot of insects die around the meditation hall. So she'll watch, as the flies age and die in the hall. Yeah, and just see, wow, that is the nature of every single life. Yeah. And that can be very powerful to remind us, this is the nature of our existence. Yeah.
All right, we have the next question here.
My meditating on impermanence, and you talked about autumn's leaf and falling leaves and all this, so then you go on thinking about life being impermanent. How is that different from ruminating?
So the idea here is that first of all, you are actively deciding to pursue this line of thinking. Yeah? My sense with ruminating is very often the mind is not in control, or that the mind's actually being overwhelmed by a series of negative thoughts. True or not true? Is that your definition of ruminating? Okay. So when I'm ruminating, I often am not even aware that I'm ruminating. As in, this whole script or thought pattern has overtaken my mental state. Is that your experience? No? You're frowning? Okay, so the way I experience rumination, often there's a very strong affliction that's up, right? There's attachment in the mind, okay? And that's the whole script of my meditation. Am I going to get to do this or not? I really don't know. I really want this thing, and I don't know if I'm going to get it, and I'm really upset. How can I get it? Yeah, so-and-so has it, but how come I don't get to have it? Yeah, no. And the whole script is around this, yeah? And I'm not often when the mind is caught like that, I'm not thinking, this is attachment. right? There's no cognizance of that. Yeah? It's running this script. Same when we're angry, right? Wow, so-and-so harmed me. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they said that. How could they say that to me? They don't respect me. Do you actually ever sit there and think, oh, I'm angry? No, you think, I'm right. I am right. This person deserves to be harmed. I can't believe it. Right? So that's why I would define as rumination. There's no kind of insight or introspective awareness that even recognizes what's happening in the mind at that moment. Oh, this is a whole chain of unbeneficial thoughts. You know, the mind's just caught up in that affliction. This is the very painful, difficult thing, you know, about us getting to know our minds, right? There are all these thoughts and habitual patterns that we think are the truth, the complete truth. And it takes often a lot of practice, or in my experience, it's been my teacher a lot of times, Venerable Children, pointing out, hey, there's another way you can think, you know. I'm like, oh, really? Wow. You know, yeah, because the mind is just so habituated. It's like, okay, if somebody says that, they must be harming me. It's true, angry, angry, angry. Versus, oh, maybe something else is going on for them. Maybe they're just trying to help, yeah? My mind doesn't have the space to think that way. Yeah, so that's what I think is happening when I'm ruminating. Whereas when I'm actively thinking, okay, I would like to meditate on impermanence. I have a clear intention, right? I think this session, I need to reflect on death. Or I think, wow, I have so much attachment to this life and my family. You know, I have so much attachment to them. I exaggerate their importance in my life and what they do for me. I need to sit and reflect on how they are impermanent. So it's a very different process, right? There's some degree of introspective awareness and more control, if I can use that word, right? I'm actually directing my mind in a virtuous direction. And if my mind is off the object, from meditating on impermanence of my family, I start to meditate on how I would really like to see them again so much. Then I think, wait, I got to come back. Yeah, the focus is impermanence. Yeah, don't get distracted. Yeah, so then there's a very clear intention, and I bring my mind back to the object. Yeah? Helpful? Okay.
Right. More questions on the ground?
Sure.
Remember, you just now you talk about meditation and analysis. Many times you bring up the method of analysis, but there's also a saying that of this analysis paralysis. So how do you reconcile this analysis paralysis with your meditation and analysis?
Yeah, that's also a very good question to reflect on. Yeah, I think sometimes, yeah, so there are different meditation methods, right? So as we learn them, it's so important to have a teacher to guide us through them. Yeah, and for us to be clear too, what kind of meditation are we doing and what are we trying to accomplish? Okay, so it's so important to study before we meditate. I definitely didn't think that in the past, you know. You just sit lah, and then do, right? But so much, the mind is so complex, so many things come up. I realized it was so important to actually study the Buddhist worldview or actually get an understanding of different types of meditation. Then I know what I'm doing and what I'm engaging in. Yeah, so am I doing a meditation to calm the mind? Right, then I'm not going to do any analysis. Yeah, the focus is, okay, keep coming back to the same object, the breath, the breath, the breath, or the Buddha, the Buddha, the Buddha. And again, I'm doing this within a bigger context. You know, I'm not trying to, you know, there's like mindfulness is being taught in all ways today, like be a mindful sniper, right? I'm very concentrated to go and kill people, right? No, right? It's so important to be like, no, I'm calming my mind so that I can actually direct it towards love. Yeah, I have a very clear purpose for calming my mind. Okay. So it's within that context. Okay. Or maybe I'm doing a meditation to generate a certain mind state. Yeah, so that's the purpose of the analysis. I go through certain steps, like the metta meditation. I start with wishing myself to be well and happy. That takes some analysis, no? Don't you have to sit and then think, what does it mean for myself to be well and happy? Is it just sit there? I don't know, be happy, right? Right? No, right? We actually have to start asking deeper questions like, what is happiness? What is suffering? If I visualize myself being happy, what does that look like? You know, what is everlasting happiness? Yeah. So it becomes a very profound topic. Yeah. But when trying to generate that mind state, yeah, I wish myself to be well and happy. I wish others to be well and happy. I wish everyone to have conditions to be well and happy. And you're generating that mind, and then you focus on that metta, right? Sending it out. Yeah. So those are two kinds. There's also meditations where you're analyzing to understand the nature of the object. Right? So very often we're doing that when we're analyzing, is this object permanent or impermanent? Yeah. Is this body going to last forever or not? Check. Yeah. And in the analytic meditations that we do in the tradition I study in, yeah, there are clear pointers lined up. You know, and Venerable Chodron has a book called Guided Buddhist Meditations, where she lays them out. So that's what we follow, so that we're not, your question is, so I don't just use analysis for its own sake, or I get distracted, right? So there are points to follow. And all of us just practice listening to her guide it, or we follow those points on a piece of paper, like, okay, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, and this is the conclusion I want to come to. Yeah? If your analysis has gone off course, you know, if you come out of your meditation feeling worse than before or feeling like life is meaningless, it's like, wait, the analysis has gone in the wrong direction, okay? Yeah, so follow the steps, yeah? Or if you've heard a teaching from someone who really inspires you and it was, you know, laid out in a very helpful way, then listen back to that teaching and write out those steps for yourself in short points. And that's what you follow when you meditate. So then you direct your analysis that way. Yeah, so that you're not making it up, or you're letting your mind just ruminate, or, you know, analyzing in a way that actually will bring your mind, bring you to the wrong conclusion. Yeah. Wrong being that, you know, it's non-virtuous or not realistic. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for your attention.
There's one more person.
One last question? Okay,
yeah.
sure. Yeah, this will be the last one. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your invaluable time. You talk about letting go. I'm trying to declutter my house for years, and I realized that I'm not successful. Then as I reflect upon what you said, I think I have problem letting go of the attachment of the things that I'm having. So could you advise me further? I really want to do it successfully this round. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know, decluttering your house is an interesting one. I think start by looking, at what are the objects you have a hard time giving up. And I'm guessing is that you've imputed a lot of meaning onto these objects. So just start by becoming aware of that. You know, as you try and put things in the box, what are the thoughts that come up that stop you? But I can't. My grandmother gave this to me when I was 9 years old, and it represents all the love of my grandmother. I can't give this away. Okay. Oh, this is the t-shirt from when I first went on holiday by myself using my first paycheck. It's so meaningful. It represents my independence and how I am able to be financially independent. No, I can't give this t-shirt away, even though I cannot wear it already. You get what I mean? So start there, right? Look at all this stuff you've imputed onto these physical objects, and you have to ask yourself, is it really in that t-shirt? Does a t-shirt represent your financial independence? I mean, you know, and that's, once you are aware of that story, and then you can, the point is to let go of that story. Then it becomes easy to give away the object, I think. And I'm saying this because I've tried to help a friend declutter before. Get a friend to help you. You know why? They do not have that story. I was helping my friend, right? I'm like, okay, are you using these t-shirts? No, I put in the bag. Then he's like, no, cannot. Like, why? You're not wearing them. Right? At a certain point, I remember we were packing all these things. He just sat down on the floor and said, you have to stop. I'm going to cry. He said, you can't. This is my whole life in this room. I'm like, it's 2 t-shirts in a bag. You know, like what? Yeah, these are your journals. Who cares? You don't read them anymore. Burn them. Yeah. So get a friend to help you, because they don't see it from the same perspective. Yeah? And then, of course, your friend can help you to generate a virtuous motivation. Think of all the people who will benefit if you give those things to them, right? Who could use those things instead of you having all your old memories and whatever tied up with them, and then they just gather dust. Think of benefiting others when you give those things away. Yeah, so those are some ideas that you might try out. Yeah. I have no time on this trip, so ask another friend to help you. No, I can help you get rid of just about everything. Yeah, give to temple, give to charity, yeah, you don't need it. Okay.
All right, shall we all say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Venerable, for such a wonderful sharing. We shall now go into the reciting of the Ratana Sutta.
Yeah, so we will just do a quick recitation of the Ratana Sutta. This is a sutta that the Buddha taught when there was I think a pandemic actually in Vaishali, right, where many people died, and after that the whole city was overcome with negativity and spirits. So he recited this sutta, and Venerable Chodron encouraged us to reflect on it and to think about where we take refuge when difficulties arise. Yeah, so as we recite the sutta, we can think about not just, of course, the places in the US near the Abbey that are on fire still, and all the beings that are dying in the fire and whose homes are destroyed and are at risk, but just all that's happening worldwide, because of climate change. I'm sure you know in Hawaii as well, there were huge wildfires. Yeah, everywhere the earth is burning, and there's sickness and there's difficulty. So by the power of our recitation, may we generate lots of merit that we can dedicate to these places. One master said, it's like if something is very salty and you just put a drop of water, it's still very salty. But if you pour a lot of water, then the salt dissipates. So we can think of it that way, by the power of our merit, sending to these different places and different difficult situations, we're helping to dissipate the suffering and the non-virtue that has caused that to occur. Yeah. All right, so we can recite what you see on this screen. Whatever beings are gathered here, whether on the earth or in the sky, may all these beings be happy, and may they carefully listen to this speech. Pay attention, all you beings. Have loving kindness for humans. Day and night they bring offerings. Therefore, guard them diligently. Of all the treasures here and beyond, even the magnificent jewels in the heavens, there is nothing equal to the Tathagata. This is the magnificent jewel called the Buddha. By this truth may there be well-being. Elimination, dispassion, deathlessness, excellence, what Shakyamuni attained in Samadhi. There is nothing like that Dhamma. This is the magnificent jewel called the Dhamma. By this truth may there be well-being. What the Supreme Buddha praised as pure, spoken of as the knowledge arising directly from Samadhi. No equal to that Samadhi can be found. This is the magnificent jewel called the Dhamma. By this truth may there be well-being. The 8 kinds of praiseworthy beings, those who are in 4 pairs, they are worthy of donations. The blissful one's disciples, and gifts given to them produce great benefit. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. Those whose minds are well directed and steady, those who have set aside sensuality and followed Gautama's instructions, they have reached the deathless and immersed themselves in it, freely enjoying the enlightenment they acquired. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. Just as a pillar firmly planted in the ground cannot be shaken by the 4 winds, I say it is the same for a good person who clearly sees the noble truths. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. Those for whom the noble truths become clear, as well taught by the one of deep wisdom, no matter how negligent they are, they will not take on an 8th existence. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. One who has attained vision will inevitably discard 3 things: belief in self-existence, skepticism, and habitual practices. They are freed from the 4 kinds of downfall, and it is impossible for them to do any of the 6 terrible things. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. Even if they perform a harmful deed with body, speech, or mind, it is impossible for them to conceal it. This is said to be impossible for one who has attained right view. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. Like a forest grove in full bloom during the first month of summer is the excellent Dhamma that he taught, which leads to enlightenment, the paramount benefit. This is the magnificent jewel called the Buddha. By this truth may there be well-being. The excellent one who knows what is excellent, gives what is excellent, brings what is excellent, taught the unsurpassed excellent Dhamma. This is the magnificent jewel called the Buddha. By this truth may there be well-being. They have eliminated the old and do not produce the new. Minds free of lust for future existence. They have eliminated the seeds and have no interest in their growth. The steadfast ones extinguish them just like a lamp. This is the magnificent jewel called the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. Whatever beings are gathered here, whether on the earth or in the sky, the Tathagata is honored by devas and humans. We bow to the Buddha. May there be well-being. Whatever beings are gathered here, whether on the earth or in the sky, the Tathagata is honored by devas and humans. We bow to the Dhamma. May there be well-being. Whatever beings are gathered here, whether on the earth or in the sky, the Tathagata is honored by devas and humans. We bow to the Sangha. May there be well-being.
All right. We shall now go into a dedication of merit by Venerable Damcho. At the same time, when we do this dedication of merit, we are also sharing the merits in memory of Madam Yo Hui Lee.
Okay, so take a moment just to bring to mind Madam Yo, her family, and also any beings that you wish to dedicate all the merit we've generated through listening to something beneficial and thinking about how to be a better person. Right, all this positive energy, you can imagine it as brilliant light at your heart that you send out to Madam Yo, her family, to places in the world, like I've mentioned, where fires are raging, where beings are suffering. And also you can bring to mind people, beings, situations in your own life that you'd like to dedicate all this positive energy to. And as we've heard in the recitation, by reflecting on the truth of what the Buddha taught, that is what will help to put out the fires of attachment, anger, and ignorance, and really help to bring peace and goodness in the world. So I'll recite the dedication of merit we do at Sravasti Abbey. If you're familiar, you can join in, and if not, just listen. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yep. We shall all now be in Anjali. Let us pay respect to Venerable Damcho as he will take the leave from the Dhamma hall.
Oh, yes.
Let's bow 3 times.